So if you ask me, am I an Aussie, a Hong Konger or Chinese? My answer would be... Hi guys, and this is Jeff. Before I start, you're probably wondering why would I film in such a random location? That's because I'm actually surrounded by all this goodness, and this is literally like 5 minutes away from my place. Winter is also coming soon in Australia, so I just feel like I need to make the most out of the good weather here, and here I am. Anyway, getting back into today's topic, being a FOB in Australia. That's basically my story actually. If you guys don't know, FOB spells FOB, and that stands for fresh off the boat. So this term is frequently used to refer to someone who is of Asian descent and recently moved to a Western country. If you guys don't know me or are new to this channel, I was originally from Hong Kong and I moved to Sydney when I was a teenager, and I've lived here ever since. I feel like there are so many YouTube videos covering the topic of being ABCs, BBCs, CBCs, MBCs, and the list goes on. But there aren't actually a lot of the videos talking about being a FOB in a Western country, but those would be stereotypical responses interpreted by the ABCs, BBCs, and CBCs. So here I am. Today I will give a more accurate depiction of what it's like being a FOB in Australia, and hopefully my insights will help people who are on the same boat as me. And just so you know, for all the FOBs that are watching my video, you are not alone. So if you ask me about my experience as a FOB in Australia, let me just quickly walk you through this. So my experience in Australia can be divided into 3 stages. Number 1 will be observation. So this will be the first year when I came to Australia and I have to adapt a complete new way of life in a foreign country. To be honest, when you're thrown into a new country with little command of the local language, you get lost and confused pretty easily. So at the beginning, I mostly hung out with people who were also coming to Sydney from Hong Kong, so that even though I'm in a new environment, I can still kind of stay in my comfort zone. But at the same time, there is also a part of me that wants to make the most out of this new country, so that I start to observe in my own way. These were the few things that I would do during my observation phase. So first of all, I would watch a lot of Aussie TV shows and American TV shows. Not just I could pick up English, but I could also learn more about the Western culture, their mannerisms, and what they like to do, etc, etc. So after watching TV, I would actually lock myself in my bedroom and then start imitating the Aussie accent. It sounds pretty embarrassing because like sometimes my parents and my brother would actually hear me in my bedroom, but I think that kind of worked out. So when I'm commuting or when I'm walking around in the shopping mall, I will also start to observe the street fashion of Sydney-siders. So I noticed that they mostly wear t-shirts and thongs. By the way, to avoid ambiguity, I have a picture of a pair of thongs here. Don't think anything dirty, guys. Yeah, I also start to dress more like them as well. So I guess even though I was comfortable in my own little Hong Kong circle, but deep down I'm pretty curious about what is happening outside my social circle. And I actually have the desire to integrate beyond the little community that I've created myself. So this brings us to the second stage. So stage 2, assimilation. I have to say, things were spicing up so quickly. Like it literally just goes from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds when I stepped into the world of uni. I was no longer in a sheltered environment as before, and I was actually more exposed to the larger uni community at this point. I actually get to meet people from a diversity of background, and because I was doing media courses at uni, I think back in my year most of them were like local Aussies, and I was the only few FOBs in that year. Probably like out of 200, there are probably only like 5 or 6 FOBs in that year. So I realized the only way to navigate at uni would be assimilation, and man, I played that hard. Yeah, when I first came to Australia, I got this like Asian pop star hairstyle, and then I realized like in order to assimilate, I have to chop that off and lose my fringe. So that was the first thing that I did. And like any other uni kids, I also started drinking and partying quite a lot when I was at uni, because I realized that was the only way that I could actually make friends at uni. I was doing that simply because I thought drinking was cool, so that all the other cool uni kids would actually like to hang out with me when I'm out drinking and partying with them. But when I'm thinking back, I actually find this kind of thinking a little bit naive, to be honest. And as I got closer and closer to my uni cohorts, something weird happened. I started to feel ashamed of my Hong Kong background. Well, partly due to the negative connotations that are associated with FOBs, like they speak broken English and they don't have any manners. At that point, I do not want people to associate me as a FOB. I was trying really hard to get rid of my FOB identity, not just from the surface like my accent or the way that I dress. So I also start to isolate myself from the Hong Kong friends that I've made when I first came to Australia. To be honest, because I was kind of ashamed to be seen with them and speaking our own language in front of my uni mates, because I'm worried that how my uni mates would perceive me. Would they see me as like this massive FOB? I was really worried at that time, so that I tried to isolate myself from those friends, which was a really bad thing to do. And the funny thing is, actually my way of assimilation worked really well for me. So I just took it to the next level when I went on exchange in the Netherlands. Because again, I find myself in a new country, and especially in this new country, no one actually knew my background. So that in order to make myself look cool, I actually played up my Aussie identity. And I'm not surprised that it worked well because of the cultural similarity between Australia and the Netherlands. And to be honest, I made heaps of friends there and I had an amazing time. I know, man, I have to say European raves were bloody amazing, and I got into like deep house trance, techno when I was in the Netherlands as well. And at that point I was actually pretty proud that I was whitewashed and I have kind of assimilated into the mainstream Western culture. But then from my interactions with different sorts of people throughout my journey, there are some bits and pieces that happen, and I started to rethink how I should actually perceive myself. So even though I might act like I'm so outgoing and open-minded on the outside, but deep down there's still things that I would retain based on how I was raised as a kid. So whether that are the traditional values that I believe in or the customs that I picked up since I was a kid. So I start to rethink about how I should perceive myself. So for example, I actually had a chance to throw a Hong Kong style hot pot party in the Netherlands, and that was actually pretty well received. All my roommates in the Netherlands would actually comment on my Asian or Hong Kong style food that I made, and then they would be like, oh, this looks really good and it is really delicious. So I start to think like, even though I'm living in a new country, does that mean I have to completely abandon my past? So here comes the first stage of my life as a FOB in Australia. So the third stage is realization. And to be honest, I'm still working through this phase at the moment and there's still a long way to go. But in short, I start to look at my past and present. So I will take the good bits from different parts of my life and further enhance them, and also the not so good bits and continue to work on them. And I guess getting into the corporate world again is a complete different ballgame. And that was when I realized even how hard you try to fit into the so-called corporate culture, there will always be someone who don't like you simply because of the person that you are. And to be honest, I can't do anything about it because I am the person that I am. If I'm not damaging the business, I'm not hurting anyone, why do I have to change myself? And I guess because of this experience, this might sound really corny, but I start to strive to be the person that I want to be rather than just being cool. And when I started doing that, it gives me more room to explore different options and things that I didn't notice before. For example, people might think this is a little bit FOBby, at least I did before, but I started getting into K-pop and Korean variety TV shows, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. And I also started to pick up Chinese literature and read both Asian poets and modern articles from Chinese writers because I find it so refreshing to read about their interpretations on how they would approach life. And instead of avoiding my own people, the Hong Kong people, if I come across them at work, I would actually start to get really excited because all we would talk about would be the food that we miss in Hong Kong. So if you ask me, am I an Aussie, a Hong Konger, or Chinese? My answer would be, I'm proud to be all of these because all of these identities are what makes me me. And ignoring any of these identities would not make any sense at all. And at the same time, I'm not constrained by the identities that I've mentioned before because I have my own interpretations based on my own experience. That's why you are seeing me standing here today. I'm Jeff, and this is my experience of being a FOB in Australia. Peace out.